Thank you very much for that great welcome. Yeah, it's interesting, right? So a revolution is about transformation, and that's actually the first perspective that we're going to dive into today. But before we do that, I just want to say this. So all of the speakers are not here because they really love to be on stage. They are here for you. So we would really like you to interact with the speakers, raise your questions, etc. And you can do that through various means. Probably the best one today is Slido. We'll be sharing a general Slido code later on because our next speaker has his own, but please use it. Don't be afraid, raise your questions. Like, stupid questions really do not exist, especially when we're talking the future of work, because at the future of work, we're all still beginners, right? Except for this next speaker, because he was working on remote already years before the pandemic made it real for us, basically. He even wrote a book about it. And since then, he's been working with hundreds, maybe even thousands, I'm not sure, companies on the transformation around remote. And transformation is the biggest topic, right? But he's going to make it a little bit smaller and realer for us through a crash course on remote rituals. So he's the founder and CEO of Remote How, and he's basically a remote work superstar. Please welcome Iwo Szapar.
Thank you so much, Peter. With the superstar, let's see. I will ask you a question if you like what you saw today at the end, so then we will see if I did a good job. Welcome, everyone. First of all, a question. How do you feel right now? Thumbs up, thumbs down, so-so? Thumbs up. Amazing. So that's a very good start. So as Peter mentioned, my name is Iwo Szapar. I'm leading Remote How and recently Remote First Institute. We've been working with companies about remote work way before it was cool and it went mainstream. Large companies, small companies. So what you hear today is legit, or at least this slide claims that it's legit. I'm also a dog lover, and Luna is missing me. I'm coming back home in a month, and she's already searching for me. So greetings from Luna, and we can get the party started with an announcement that there will be a giveaway at the end, so please pay attention. And we will be interacting with each other, both with everyone in the world, but also in this amazing venue. So I strongly encourage you to go to slido.com 2170155, or you can just scan the QR code, and I will move to give you a second. And let's start with the first task for today. So I asked you about the thumbs up, thumbs down, but now you can describe your energy level with an emoji. I started with a rocket. I have a rocket tattoo on me, so that's why it's a rocket. Super. So let's go. We have excitement. That's good. We have dance. We have coffee. Cool. Let's see what's next. We have a party. Perfect. Monday morning party. Someone is curious. Super good. So let's keep it rolling for a couple more seconds to see what you're up to. Someone will be making their nails. That's amazing. Multitasking. I like it. Super cool. Okay, you will see the Slido code later on as we go, so we can get it started. So clearly, everyone is the majority of people are excited. So I will do my best not to let you down. Awesome. So the agenda for today, we will be talking about challenges, because remote work is not only amazing stuff. We'll be talking about leaders, because leaders are actually the foundation for the transformation. Of course, async communication, of course, productivity, and then I will do my best to show you how you can actually move from here, because it will be a lot, so we will be covering a lot of different aspects, but then actionable next steps, and of course, surprise. So I wanted to start off so we are all on the same page that this is the future, and there's no absolutely way to go back. This is what employees want. Employees want to either mix remote with office, or they want to be just remote, or there are some that want to be in office. But the common denominator is that we need to create environments where people have a choice. And when we are looking at the most common setup, and this is the super fresh data from last month, we see that companies are going hybrid. So this is probably not a surprise to you. But the one thing that we need to remember here is that hybrid means actually remote first, because those are the principles that will enable hybrid to be successful. Because even if one employee isn't in the office, you already have a distributed team. So this is kind of something that was already happening before pandemic. There were different offices, different places. You were working with contractors, but right now, because this is the future, you need to be ready for this. Before pandemic, mostly smaller organizations were remote, but now huge ones. Airbnb, the first one. Twilio, second one. Even the dinosaur PwC is allowing their employees to work remotely, right? So I would never, ever be able to put up a slide like this in 2019, but right now, this is their reality. And those are just some of the examples, right? So large companies understand that this is the future, and this is how they can attract talent, how they can retain talent. So future of work, it's about remote first, but it's also about the mindset towards remote first. So please remember, this is very, very important. And if we look at where companies are right now, this is a very good visualization built by the CEO of Automatic, so the company behind WordPress. So you have 5 stages. The 5th stage, where Automatic claims to be, is a nirvana, which basically means that it really doesn't matter where the work is done. It's top productivity. The work-life balance is there, what Karsten mentioned. So this is the ideal scenario. Unfortunately, most companies are at the level number 2. So there is still a long way to go to achieve the nirvana, where you actually don't care where are your employees, where they work. You really focus on the outcome, and you focus on the happiness of your employees. So I have a question to you. What are the challenges that you see, either within your company or within your friends circle, that are connected to remote and hybrid? And let's see if I guess them, so we'll be able to cover some of them during the talk. If someone recently joined, maybe online, you go to slido.com and you put up the code 2170155. Okay, so we have first one, super cool. Culture, employee engagement, people feeling left out, boundaries, lack of social connections, company culture, burnout. Culture again, meeting culture, motivation. Whoa, so many. I won't be able to solve all of them today. Engagement, culture again, connection, leadership, not but, yes, leadership is a big one. Behaviors, real estate expenses, coffee talk, so culture again and connection, visibility of performance, saw it. Team management, mindset, whoa, okay, let's keep it coming for the next couple of seconds because it's gold. Legal questions, culture, whoa, so many challenges. Sense of belonging. Okay, taxes and social insurance. Okay, so it's a lot, and I think that shows you that remote is not easy. It's absolutely not easy, but if you look at that, remote is actually a new way of working that we need to relearn. In many cases, it's because we simply were not working as we should have in the past. But I will get to, we have trust, we have Zoom fatigue. Okay, let's go to solutions. There are a lot of challenges, but I wanted to sum it up, and that was my guess. And looking at what you mentioned, most of the stuff is covered here. So the one thing that companies are unfortunately making a mistake, they're doing something called remote-ish. So in theory, they are doing something around remote, but actually they're not going full-on remote first. And this is a comparison what the mistake you're making versus what you should be doing, right? And we'll be covering most of these topics today. What I wanted to really emphasize is personalized employee experience, focusing on the outcome, clear rules what you're expecting from your employees, async communication, and meetings. Let's have less meetings. And yes, we'll talk about it today. So there's a lot in order to get to our nirvana from Matt. So let's get it started. And of course, we start with the leadership. Because looking at over 4 years of working with companies, unfortunately, dear managers, you are the biggest problem. And there's a huge gap between what employees and what leaders think about the future of work. And this is an alarm, and this is an alarm that we all saw last month, or you can get back to this. This is a report published by Microsoft. It's a workplace index showing a huge discrepancy between what workers say that they're productive versus what their leaders claim that what they're productive. So we have 87% of people say, yeah, I'm doing a good job working remotely, versus 12% of leaders are fully confident that people are productive. So there is a gap, and it needs to be addressed. The main challenge, the main approach here is that we need to finally teach leaders how to lead teams. And it doesn't matter where they are based. Remote, hybrid, on-site, whatever. No, simply managers need to be better leaders. And question 2, what do you think are the main characteristics of a leader that can manage from anywhere? I totally agree. Yes. Yes again. Oh yes, we already see a trend around trust. We have communication. We have, again, communication, flexibility, enabling, not commanding, yes. Trust, compassion, clarity, structure, empowerment. Not a micromanager. Yes, we'll talk about it as well. Whoa, a lot. And now you can ask yourself if you're a manager, if that would link to you as well. So clearly it starts with trust. And I think I guessed it, if I'm not mistaken. It's trust. It's absolutely trust. It's the end of controlling. It's the beginning of being a mentor that is trusting. And this is one of my favorite statistics. We trust more robots than ourselves. And this is super scary. So managers, again, a lot of work to be done, so employees trust you. Second of all, micromanagement. It was there, setting clear goals, checking the results, obvious, but still not happening as what we see. And again, this is the way to keep your employees happy and productive if you're not micromanaging them, if you're trusting them. So, speaking about trust, how would you rate the trust level at your company? Please be honest, it's anonymous. No one will find out. Ooh. 7.6. Let's see where we land. It's promising. Okay. If we go below 7, then might have a challenge. But it's not bad. It's not bad. So the foundation is quite okay. And we finish at 7.5. Okay. So not bad. Third aspect, transparency. This is one of the most important things around culture in companies that were remote. They are extremely transparent in decisions and the actions that they're taking. And this is something where in the past companies were reluctant to explaining why we're doing something like this and that. This is a complete opposite when it comes to the future. And again, people want to know. Like, It's not a surprise, but they really want to know why we're doing something. And there is an edge case scenario. There is a radical approach. So there is a company called Buffer, and they go as far with their transparency. They publish the salaries of their employees, everyone. Right? This is the salary of the employee, of the CEO, and the list goes on and on, right? So this is, of course, extreme, but that kind of shows you the direction and the trends that these companies set. Then the manager of the past was avoiding difficult conversations, right? This is also something what we do in life sometimes. But in the future, it's really about telling how it is. Being honest. Doesn't mean that you need to be mean, but you need to be honest. And I strongly encourage you, I don't get any referrals for recommending this book, but to check the book called Radical Candor. It basically tells you how to be honest and be nice at the same time and build a culture of a direct feedback within your organization. Because there, as we all saw, there are a lot of challenges, and we need to speak up, and this is the best way to really fix them if we speak up. So Radical Candor, strongly encourage you to check this out. And last but not least, empathy. We saw empathy. This is the future. Mentor of the future knows the word empathy and acts like this. So leaders, please remember all these points, and let's make it happen. Leaders, and then communication. This is my favorite. So probably it might have happened to you or to your friends that you were doing something and then out of the blue you're getting a call, you're getting an email, and it's super important, although it's actually not important, right? So what it does, it's a wrong communication practice. And 23 minutes for you to get back to actually what you've been doing this, right? Of course, American scientists came up with this number, so probably varies, but you need to, it takes you a lot of time to go back to the focus mode, right? Another example, and this is a really bad one. You're at home, you're watching Netflix, you're just chilling, and then it's 8:30, and out of the blue, your boss sends you a message, right? And you're checking this. Notifications should be turned off. Boom. Impact on your work-life balance, right? Those are the two examples of the communication practices that we still see among many companies that we need to fight with. No worries, I'm here. I will tell you how to survive. So this is the key word: asynchronous, asynchronous, and once again asynchronous. Communication, work, however you want to go about this, right? And rituals. So if you look at the companies like Buffer, like Doist, like GitLab, this is the foundation of their success. They're working in a remote-first model, and they're embracing async. If you never heard of asynchronous communication, no worries. 101 is coming. So synchronous communication, this is how we're talking to each other right now, in real time, right? Async communication means that there's no need to immediate response, right? It, of course, requires that you have internal communication policy, so the expectations on both sides are known, but it's a complete change in how we're communicating, how we used to communicate, right? So why sync is bad? Because it's very ad hoc. It has a negative impact, like we saw on your work-life balance. It reduces productivity. It can cause stress. So a lot of bad things happen because you're doing stuff ad hoc, right? You're not planning. You're not thinking through, right? And then, of course, if it's just a call that you're getting, it limits the transparency, right? It disrupts the flow of the information. And if we have people in different places, you need to make sure that this information is distributed well. So long story short, sync is bad. But how you can actually make async work and what are the use cases, right? So first of all, whenever possible. And then on the left side, you can see more like check-ins, general updates. Like there are even companies who are running all hands async. And then there is a part for questions that can be started async. And then when you're live, you're already answering questions, right? But of course, it doesn't mean that you should be not doing sync at all, right? If it's about one-on-one meetings, if it's about tough news, if it's something that is like where the ego is involved, that absolutely still needs to happen in a synchronous way, right? So the bottom line here is that once we implement more async work, we have also less meetings, and we'll get to meetings later, and we have happier people. So that's kind of one of the flows that we will be going towards. And now, honest question again. How do you feel like about your async culture? Again, anonymous, so please be honest. Ooh, we have 2 even. 10 is good, 2 is bad. 6.3, ooh. Okay. Okay. Yes, so I'm not surprised because oftentimes this is one of the largest challenges that we see when working with our clients. So the good news is that you're not alone when it comes to async. But this is such a huge organizational and behavioral change that it won't just happen over time. It's not a quick win to achieve, but definitely you can start doing this right away. So, how do we move from sync to async? Couple of things. First of all, like I mentioned, you need to define rules and expectations. This is the bottom line, because if you feel like someone should be doing something, that's already a mistake, right? So define the policy. You can create something called, it's very often used in product development, service level agreement. So you have an agreement between each other, between teams, how fast you should be reacting to something. If it's critical, then yeah, sure, you might respond in 5 minutes. But if it's about the workshop that is in 2 months, no, you don't need to. You just keep doing your thing, right? So rules, first of all. Second of all, transparency, and once again, transparency. How you can go about this with communication? Limit your one-on-one conversations. Limit group conversations. Focus as much as possible on channels. That also is a bit dangerous if you don't know how to use channels, because you constantly do add here, add all, and then everyone is notified. So you also need to be cautious, and it kind of comes back to the definition of how you're communicating, right? But that builds transparency. That shows who is working on what, where are people, what are their goals, right? Write more. We are used to just picking up the phone or calling the meeting. No, this is over. What you should be doing right now is to helping your employees create well-thought messages. We need to learn how to write. And unfortunately, this is one of the challenges that we see. But this is what will help implement async within your organization. Limiting ad hoc calls and also teaching people how to write properly. Experiment with async video, because async is not only text, right? There are tools, like if you're using Slack, it directly implemented there. If you don't, there is Loom, there are bazillions of others. But experiment with recording short messages to your team. Experiment with screen sharing while you're recording and explaining something. Instead of jumping on a call that would take you at least 15 minutes, record the message that would take you 2 minutes explaining what needs to be done, right? I know that sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone and record yourself, but it really saves you time and the person that you need to interact with. And last but not least, this is a hack that we're using at our team for years now when it comes to async. It's a check-in and check-out method. It's an async update, what you're planning to do on the specific day, and then at the end of the day, you're checking out and you're mentioning what has been done. It's the simplest way of showing what's going on within the company, who is working on what, and creating accountability. Because you've already posted in the morning that you will do something, that doesn't mean that you cannot say that you haven't done, right? See, LinkedIn posts were not done, which is fine, which is totally fine. So there's an acknowledgement that maybe I planned too much, or maybe I had some other things to do, right? So async is how we communicate, how we write, how we send a video message. but it's also about meetings. And this is my favorite meme of 2020. People were posting this all over the place, that we should have, we didn't need this meeting, right? And now a question to you. How often do you still feel like this dog? If I could answer, I would be never. I have 3 days of the week that are completely blocked. I'm not taking any meetings. It's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, I have only 2 4-hour blocks when I take meetings. So we have sometimes, okay, almost every day, and never 9%. Okay. Not bad, not bad. But still sometimes means that there are things that almost every day is growing, unfortunately. Oops, maybe I should change the slide because we're arriving at 1/3. Okay, so definitely only 10% of people can leave the presentation for the next couple of slides, and the rest should be still with us and listening. So we're spending a lot of time in meetings. We know it, and then again, American scientists have a proof for that, 22 years in meetings, so yeah, there's definitely time that we can save and do other stuff. So a couple of inspirations, like meetings, this is less even related to remote work, this is just related to how meetings should be run anyway, right? So meetings that make sense, Mr. Elon Musk advises people to leave meetings if they don't make sense, or if they're not needed there. Controversial, but maybe worth testing. Of course, meetings only with agenda. We all know it. We sometimes forget about it. Alternative is to create a memo, not a PowerPoint presentation, the memo that is sent out to everyone who is joining the meeting. They can add asynchronous notes before, and then they might think like, I'm not needed at this meeting, and they're just not showing up, right? You distributed the information, people went through it, and then not everyone needs to be on this meeting. Third, central brain. So we will be covering the central brain, the playbook part later on, but it's connected also with meetings. It can be the single place where you have all your notes, or your agendas, all your materials, because right now, it's like all over the place. Like if you want to go back to meetings from like 2 weeks ago or some materials, in most cases, it's all over the world. So interesting inspiration is a handbook by GitLab. You will have Darren here on the stage later on. He will probably chat more about that. And lastly, I don't know if you're doing this, but this is my favorite type of meeting, the meeting where I can walk. Life hack, my wife bought me last year sunglasses with a microphone, and that I can listen to music as well, so I can do calls everywhere, and it's super good. Like, try it out. If you don't need to be visible, if you don't need to do any type of screen sharing, try walking meetings. You will be doing more steps during the day, etc. So it's also good for your health. So we covered async, we covered some life hacks for meetings, and now productivity, because it depends who sees that, but leaders perceive that there is an issue, right? So I saw this quote it's no longer Tinder, it's right now Slack and email that people see the first thing in the morning, and that's absolutely bad. It's absolutely bad, and we should fight with this, right? And how we should fight with this? Who should be fighting? Our leaders. Like, our leaders should be protecting our productivity and not just checking if we are working. This is their job, right? But oftentimes they forget and they just want to check if we are working or watching Netflix. Because it's really about optimizing for real outcome, not signals. And the signal would be a direct message on Slack if someone responds, right? Or that you're attending the meeting, but actually you just don't give and you just listen to something else, right? So focus on the outcome and not just the fact that someone is present, that is responding, right? So, your leaders, either you as the leader or within your company, do you think that you're protecting your productivity? Let's see. They are not. They're not. A bit. Okay. So we need more protectors, definitely. If someone recently joined online, you go to slido.com, 2170155, and you join the Slido game. So it clearly looks like leaders need to up their game, and they need to help us be productive. Like, when I say it out loud, it sounds so obvious that they should be doing this, but even sometimes they don't know that they're sabotaging their own team, right? So 6.1, this is either the lowest or one of the lowest scores that we saw today in Slido, and I think this should be a wake-up call for a lot of leaders, right? If a leader is doing something wrong, or if your colleague is doing something wrong, this is something that you can try. It's called virtual ideas jar. And basically, you're sending an anonymous message to a jar. It can be some kind of a feedback tool, HR tool, whatever. And then you're gathering the data and evaluating it transparently. These are like fully anonymous, but it's helping you to gather data about the behaviors that should not take place. Like, if your leader is doing what you saw here, it should be a place where you're reporting this. And it's not about ratting them out. No, it's like actually helping your organization become better in a fully transparent way. So, finishing productivity, I wanted to mention one trick that you could implement from today, and it's around deep work. So if someone is not familiar with deep work, we have shallow work. Shallow work is responding to emails, being on meetings, so all the signals of productivity, but not actually something that is helping you move forward, get to the bigger tasks done, right? On the other hand, you have deep work. And this is actually where the stuff gets done, where you are not disrupted by anything else, notifications out, no one is calling you, you're simply getting the stuff done. And what you can do, and this is a comparison, what you can do is you can organize a deep work session, either for yourself or for your team. And before we get to that, let's see if you block time for deep work, either for yourself or for your teams. Oh, this is good. This is good. We're starting with a yes, 70%, 73. Okay. Promising. That's definitely promising. So the last 2 years, or even more, taught us that we need time to be focused when no one is distracting us. So that's good. So you're doing deep work. Now, if you want to do deep work with others, you can host a deep work session, and this is just a couple of steps that you need to take. Invite your colleagues. Everyone is sharing their goals, and you can even play a Spotify list. And then before the time runs out, everyone is sharing, you're summarizing, boom. The one important thing here is that you're totally putting off all your notifications, you're shutting down Slack, and this is the time to really get some very specific stuff done. So that's deep work, but it's not only about planning time for deep work, it's just in general, planning your day. And unfortunately, for most people, it looks like on the left. But for people at Doist, this is the inspiration from them. Chase, kudos to you. This is how it should be looking, right? So very specific task for a very specific period of time. Then, of course, there is some time for emails and messages, maybe a couple of times a day, but you're not going back and forth all the time. And lastly, plan time without meetings. I strongly encourage you to do. And if someone is interrupting you, you're saying, hey, sorry, but this is my calendar. I'm not taking meetings right now. I'm working on something important. You need to learn how to say no. This is another thing that you should be pursuing. So once again, because this is one of the foundations, it's really about the outcome. It's not about the time that you're investing. It's really about an outcome, and this is what you should be focusing on. So it was a lot, and now we'll be summarizing this and helping you with next steps. So the first step, audit. Because different companies, you're in different stages, so what are the things that you need to get done? So understand where you are with your setup. Run a survey, get insights from your employees through interviews, then build a plan before starting to do anything, right? So this is important to understand where you are right now, because there are so many areas that needs to be adjusted, so many areas that it's not an easy task, and it won't take you couple of weeks to fix it. And I think on the panel of head of remote, you will see that there's so much coordination needed because there's so many areas that needs to be adjusted. And this is a very simple framework, how we're going about it with our clients. Anonymous surveys, interviews with the team, reviewing your current policy. In most cases, it doesn't exist, or it's like very basic. And then building the report, and then based on this report and solutions, you're moving forward. And this is how it could look like, right? Surveys out, reviewing of policies, handbook, conducting one-on-one meetings. In a couple of weeks, you can have results, and then you can understand what are your pitfalls. Okay, so we have audit, that's important. Another thing, I won't spend much time on it, it's education, and once again, education. Managers, HR, employees, we suggest blended learning, so it's both live as well as self-paced. And let's move on. The third step is a playbook that helps you define how you're actually expecting your employees to work, and it's a living place of knowledge. It's not another document that no one cares about. No, it's actually the definition and ongoing changing definitions of how you're working, that everyone is on the same page, what you're actually expecting, right? And involve your employees in building such playbook. Again, GitLab is probably one of the best in the world. It's like 2,000 pages. They've been building this for years, so this is like the extreme case. But you can see that this is the way to go. This is absolutely the way to go. So, a couple of things to remember when you will be building your playbook or expanding. Have an owner of the playbook, because this is not just creating once and forgetting, because someone needs to be responsible for maintenance. Clear rules, extremely important, many areas, but it needs to be written down so we are all on the same page. Unifying processes, involving how you're actually using the tools, because my understanding of using Slack might be different from my colleague, so make sure that this is also included. What also needs to be included is that it's personalized. It depends on the team, it depends on the country. Not everyone is the same, and I know that it adds more work for you, but this is a way to succeed here. And of course, because you're implementing so many changes, you're changing behaviors, you're implementing new rituals, make sure that there's an ongoing development program around it. It can be a certification based on this content that is also changing. So every 6 months, every 12 months, make sure that people go through it, all your new hires, etc. If you need any help, this is exactly what we do. So you can go to Remote How and get a free advisory call, because it's a lot. But it's almost the end, and this is the surprise for you. So we recently launched Remote First Institute, and we have some free memberships. Basically, this is a place that is going to help transform the world, fight the office lobby. We're bringing together the whole community of top experts. Some of the experts today are already our members and are helping us to fight back and enable the remote-first future. So if you're interested in learning more, it's a giveaway time. We have free memberships. You can type your address. It won't be displayed here, and you will get a monthly access. We are running a couple of events every week. We are sharing resources. We are basically helping both consultants as well as remote workers be as best as possible, so this revolution sticks. Because there is a lobby that is planning to go back to 2019, and we need to fight this lobby, this mindset, to enable everyone to have a freedom of choice where, how, and when we work. So that's about Remote First Institute, and I'm about to wrap up. But now the question, how did I do today? And you can be honest. I won't cry. Worst case, I will know that I need to up my game. Okay, 9, that's very promising. Okay, 9.4, whoa, 9.0, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much that you enjoyed today's session. I hope to see you soon, but we have Q&A. I always wanted to end. We still have time for Q&A, right? Cool. So, let me take a sip of water. We have 55 questions? No? No, I think there's also a lot of responses. Okay. Okay, cool. Can we still send emails at night and expect that our colleagues will not see and react and have asynchronous comms? Yes, but it needs to be clearly described that you're not expecting them to answer immediately. There are people that are using, like in Gmail, you have this feature that it can be delivered on a specific time. So either you have a clear policy or you're scheduling the message to be sent at a later stage. How does one network and professionally gain mentorship while working remote and async? So this is a very good question. And before pandemic, people were, oh, we have email here. That's interesting. I need to go to my Slido in that case. Just a second, technicalities. Okay. So maybe we can, I will be reading this from my phone, and you can get in touch with me via. Yes. Okay. We have questions here. Yeah, so before pandemic, people were hesitant about hiring juniors remotely. So it's not easy. That would be my short answer. You can absolutely do it. It needs to be intentional. So in the office environment, oftentimes the mentoring, the networking just happened. And here you need to build programs, you need to invest time, and allow your leaders to be like, okay, this is not the moment when I'm chasing my goal, when I'm chasing to close this project. No, this is the time where actually intentionally investing into mentoring. And with networking, the one thing that is changing is that you can start networking with other companies. You can go to a co-working place. You can go to an event. So it's not only your company that you're growing with, but those are also other options that are opening up. Okay.
Let me talk you through the questions, Ivo.
Okay.
That's a little bit easier for you.
Perfect.
Thank you for all the questions, by the way. Just keep pushing them through the Slido that Ivo shared earlier. There's a lot of questions coming in on async, right?
Yeah.
I think a very good one. How can we make sure to stay connected with colleagues on a personal level with async work?
Yes. So one thing that is important to remember that it doesn't mean that we're transforming the communication to fully async, right? Async needs to be the leading one, but we still need human interactions. We still need time when we're connecting with our colleagues. So it's important to have a cadence, to have recurring touch points with your team members. So it's not ad hoc, be like, oh, I didn't have a catch up with this person for like weeks or months. No, just put it in the calendar, make sure that you know what you would like to talk about this meeting, or maybe it's a free fall and you're just like, what's up, right? There are different ways, but make sure that there is a simply process for that. Like process in the old days sounded like an office dinosaur, but right now processes, rituals are the key, and it's also a process in how you're building your culture and the connection within your team. So it's sync and async.
Exactly. I used the word cadence, and there was a question already also on cadence for the daily check-ins or weekly check-ins, right?
Yeah. So we're doing daily check-in, obviously daily, and it doesn't matter where in the world you are, right? There are people in different time zones. So what is important is that the checkout means that you're checked out also, right? So if there are people in different time zones or people with a flexible work schedule, that means, okay, their day is over, and I cannot also expect that they will come back to me. When it comes to weekly, there's also a sync-async cadence that you can implement. So for example, in the beginning of the week, you have a sync, and you're discussing the plan for the week, and then on Friday, you're just summarizing this fully async, right? So play around. The ideas that I shared with you today, this is the pool that you can get inspired and try different things, but it doesn't mean that it will work for everyone. Play, test, and adjust.
It does have a lot to do with confidence too, right? What you just did, putting yourself in a pretty vulnerable position, saying, so how did I do? Also suggesting these new type of remote rituals into the company or doing daily check-ins, it has a lot to do with confidence. You're putting yourself out there. How do you deal with people that might have some challenges accepting this? Yes,
so a lot of the things around the culture and like the behaviors would, if we change, if we adjust, would help us simply be better humans and help us create better connections just in general. Like the radical candor example, right? If we would be honest with each other all the time, / most of the time, it will be simply easier in the day-to-day life as well, right? So it's a lot of the things that will take time to change, and because we have so much legacy from the back days where it wasn't so important, but right now it's so crucial, it will take time, and there will be also blood and tears, and you will feel angry, and you'll be like, oh, it doesn't work. No, it works. It just takes time, and it requires different values. It requires adjustments, but the freedom is at the end of this path. So I would try going for it.
Thanks for that. So you've told us a lot of things that we should consider, might start doing. Are we still allowed to work at night at all? And what should we expect, especially from colleagues in this async setup?
I would say yes. We had a conversation with one of the speakers yesterday that she works on Sunday. And I was like, at first my reaction was like, but then she was like, it's perfect, I have a Tuesday off, right? And this is the mental shift that needs to happen. It doesn't need to be no longer 9 to 5. It doesn't need to be Monday to Friday. Like, we can adjust our schedule. And of course, this is a use case that won't work for all of us, right? We work with a company and all of us work from Monday to Friday. But that kind of shows you the possibilities that not just remote work gives you, but the complete shift in how we're working and then how we're organizing our days, our weeks, our lives. So if it's working for someone, like we have a software engineer on the team that is waking up at 2 p.m. and going to sleep at 6 a.m. And I'm not able to fight with him. Like, this is just his flow. And I'm like, you're doing your job, you're happy, that's amazing, right? So try what works for you.
Last question I want to take from this from the group. This guy doesn't really sleep, but also a lot of remote workers feel alone. How do you deal here with that situation, or what do you recommend companies in that regard?
Yes, so couple of things. So first of all, there needs to be a plan. And by a plan, I mean actions that the company is actually investing in. So we're building an engagement plan. We're figuring out how to create these connections, and that requires time, and resources. So don't be afraid of investing money in building connections and helping people address that challenge. So this is just a big picture, right? The small things that you can do is, if you're working predominantly from home, try working from a coffee shop, try working from a co-working space, try different things, because it's like remote work doesn't equal working from home alone. You can meet with others. You can co-work with your friends, like meet up at a coffee shop for a couple of hours and work together. So be creative, attend events, attend networking sessions. But the one thing that was really interesting that I've heard from a person that worked for a giant remote company before pandemic was that these companies mostly hired introverts. Like that was kind of their way to go about recruitment. So the pre-pandemic world of remote acknowledged challenges of loneliness, and you can see it in reports by Buffer from 2019, etc. But on the other side, you had more people who are like, yeah, that's amazing. I'm sitting at home, I'm in my basement, and I'm working remotely, right? So I do acknowledge that this is a bigger shift and bigger change. So that's why we need to experiment, and we need to invest time, and we need to also shift how we think about spending time with our coworkers versus, for example, spending more time with our friends on Tuesday at 1 p.m. to meet up for a lunch, right? So those are the small things that we used to do over the weekend, but right now we can adjust our schedule and meet up anytime we want. And those are the small things that I encourage you to do that would help you tackle this challenge.
Great. So I'm not going to pass on this opportunity now that we're here on stage to also ask a question for myself, because a lot of things that we can do, we can implement. Every time I see this stuff, create an SLA, create the rules, create a playbook, I am thinking, it sounds like a lot of additional work. Of course, I know if you do your work more efficiently, it'll make things better at the end of the day, but you work with a lot of pretty large companies also. How do you manage the expectation in terms of time management that you expect, and not only the energy put in, but also the time frame around this transformation?
I'm very upfront. There will be blood and tears, and it will take you years. So
how many?
Like
2 years?
No, years.
Oh, years. Okay,
yeah. And for some it could be 8 months. For some it will be 3 years. So I'm not saying that this is easy, because that already sets the wrong approach here. But what is really important is that the company acknowledges it. To my point earlier, there is an owner of such change. The owner has a saying within the company, because they oftentimes deal with HR and ops and learning and development and leaders just in general. So they need to have a saying. They need to have a budget. And the company needs to understand that because this is such a huge change, it will simply take time. But if we understand our current status, those are our problems. If we know where we are going, if there is a roadmap, like it's like a pure change management process, right? And a company needs to acknowledge this. And if we connect business metrics to this, so our talent attraction will be boosted. Our talent retention, this is what will have also positive impact. So in general, if we show that, okay, at the end of the day, at the end of the year or in a couple of years, it will have a positive impact, or it will continually have a positive impact on our work. This is just a long-term investment. It's not a quick. There are many quick wins that you can achieve, of course, but if you look at the longer term, like this is the time and the timeline that you need to look at. So no expectations of fixing the world immediately. It takes time.
It's a long-term investment into a serious topic.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Iwo Szapar, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.